Hello, lovely people. I know there's usually a little bit of lag when you start streaming, so I tried a couple little things, some very little things. The basic reference I looked up is, again, is the same thing as if you have got a high-speed internet connection and you got a decent computer and you don't have a lot of things fighting for bandwidth. And again, we fixed the microphone problem by being USB related. The next thing they say, then it's the kilobytes per second has something to do with has less to do with your own connection. Does with the service you're connecting to. So so there we are. It may very well be restream. So I'm inclined to try a few other things. Hey, NPC. So I'm inclined to try a few other things, and we can see if if I have to use a different service provider. See if there's a test version of StreamYard, even if it's got logos and other stuff. But the change I made right now is Restream will automatically do a server detect to determine which server it should send your content to, and it's got servers all around the globe. And so I picked one. I picked a specific one out of Washington, D.C. Not the closest geographically, but I thought, hey, let's pick one, and if it's good, it's good. And we'll see what happens. The 41% drop frame rate, I'm assuming, is just, from the launch of the effect and all that, just from starting the process up. We'll see. Hopefully it'll get better over the course of the stream, and everything's going to be great. But before we had our little intermission there, MPC Max Powers Comic was asking about tips for coloring. I really don't know if I have any. Every comic is colored differently. I think all the different styles. I'm a big fan of Laura Allred's very simple, classic comic book style coloring. I really like Laura Martin for kind of blending traditional comic books and the traditional comic book style and something a bit more painterly. So it really depends on the genre of the thing too. Okay, that's another little house ad thing. But for all I know, Restream is getting slammed at this hour, and a lot of my tests were done not during prime time. They were done during, 2 a.m. streams and midnight streams, things like that. So for all I know, it's not so much Restream hates me, although who them? It could be that as a free service they just get slammed. So, and as a free service I can't really complain to them. Hey, your free service isn't working the way I'd like. And I don't know if their paid version gives you like a fast pass to priority lanes. Like the internet needs more of that. But microphone seems to be working. I hope everybody likes the new background music. I can easily switch back to the previous one. But I plan to mix it up a bit, just so it's not always the same music all the time. But because it's a different mix, if it's too loud... my coloring is very specific to this story, I think. The coloring is not very realistic. I tend to do lots of glows and silly effects that don't really... I don't know. It would be really weird if Superman were colored this way, for instance, or Batman. But I may be able to switch to a more permanent... My schedule for these streams has changed again and again and again over the course of the year. I won't go into all the drama of my switching gears. But I'm leaning having Tuesday, Thursday streams. 4 to 8. And I have a conflict on Thursdays, which I didn't initially have, but it sort of started happening, and I think I may be working around it. because I'd love to do Tuesdays and Thursdays. Fridays are tough for people, it's often tough for me, but I want to go 2 days a week. I do Mondays, but I'm really stuck because I don't want to do Mondays and Wednesdays, and I don't want to do weekends. You know, you'll still catch me on here on weekends. LJ, hey, how are you? Brief stutter start for this episode where I was trying to... I did a change to my settings where instead of letting Restream pick the receiving server, which it does automatically, I manually chose a destination. And so far, this destination is better than the others. I'm still having quite a bit of drop frames, but less so. Currently, our total number of drop frames is 1956, and that number is not going up, which is encouraging. Because I really lowered my bandwidth requirements too. Like, I was telling the system, listen, don't kill yourself here. Just stop turning my video into a slide. Because it inevitably selects a frozen moment where it looks like I just put a large slice of pastrami in my mouth, and like that's the moment that's frozen on the screen. Oh, let me show everybody this other thing. I was telling, okay, we talked about 3D modeling for a while at the end of last year. We were talking about Blender. We were talking about all these different 3D modeling programs. And the version that I really liked from, oh heavens, I'll remember. The big 3D program. Not Maya. Is it Maya? Well, they did a version called Sculptris, which was great. And it's the free version of the software, and it really fun. It basically started you with a 3D modeling block of clay, and then you get to play with that clay digitally, and I think it worked on the iPad as well. I could be wrong, but maybe not. But there is they ended up getting rid of Sculptris and folding it into another piece of software, which apparently is still pretty good. ZBrush, exactly. Thanks, Matthew. ZBrush Core something. It was like they keep changing the name of the thing. It's had like 3 names since Sculptris. But so there is a free version. It looks kind of cool, but I've had a lot of fun with. Let me switch this over for a second. You're gonna see just a close up of my awful head. Ah. I'm going to launch the other program. There we go. Okay, and we're coming back. So this is... it's called Nomad Sculpt. And it's very similar to Sculptris, but it has more... I think it's a lot easier to use, and it's way more powerful. I think I did this while suffering through the Eternals movie last night. I did some work on the comic strip, and then also worked on some weirdness like the corner of the eye. The idea would be, I think this would be a very small miniature, so I've brushed in some hairs that are way too small. Oh, thanks, Matthew. I'm getting it. But I think this is like the 5th thing I've done in this program, and I find it very intuitive in terms of, you control the brush size, you control the pressure. The pressure can go way above 100%. You can control symmetry, and so on a shape like, I don't know, let's choose his eyes, and I don't know how symmetry will act because oh yeah, let's use clay and subtract and symmetry and see what happens. My brush is way too big. I was just flattening that eyeball down. Why is that not showing up? I was just saying good things about you, Mr. I think because I wasn't moving my cursor around enough. So you have symmetry functions where what you do on one side will be affected on the other. I'm gonna undo those. It's got like 1,000 levels of undo. This hair is way too fine for our character at the moment, but use a brush tool and symmetry. Couldn't be easier. Smoothing tools. Super fun and weird. But anywho, a lot of fun with this. I think with my minuscule amounts of free time, you will see some... What gobbledygook is this? In my very little free time, you should see some interesting 3D models popping up. Gotcha, LJ. I think it's fairly large. Okay, let's get back to this. I've lost a few more frames along the way. Just my head. The interesting thing about Nomad and how I'm so spoiled with Procreate is that Nomad has an autosave feature, but it's on a timer. Every 5 minutes or so, it will save your file. But if you quit the program, if you do a bunch of work for 4 minutes and then quit the program, you will lose those. Unlike Procreate, which saves everything on the fly. And there's my spam. So, hello everybody. This is a bonus stream. I usually stream on... I'm not going to say usually, because the schedule is still in flux and it might continue. Like I said, like I was saying before, I think we're going to be doing these ideally on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those seem like the best day for me. I mean, I'm streaming right now, but I still have a conflict which is forcing me to exit early. Fridays are rough. I will be here, but it's a challenge to make it work. My name is Steve Conley. I'm a web cartoonist and have been for a shockingly long amount of time. From a time before webcomics were really a thing. I mean, they were a thing. I mean, we made things, but it wasn't a... At the time I did webcomics, initially, they were viewed as people who couldn't get published in any other way. The farm team of comic books and comic strips. Second class. It's in the last, I don't know if so much as webcomics have gotten more prestigious as much as other forms of cartooning have lost esteem. But there are more web cartoonists making a living just doing webcomics, I think, than there are people who are doing comic books or people who are doing comic strips. I think as an industry, if we dare call it, and forgive me, as a vocation, how about that? And not that it's all about making a living from this stuff. There's so many good cartoonists who are just doing this as a passion. And I don't mean to say just. Please forgive me. My language, all discussion of this comes from a very oldie-timey place, with habits that I'm trying to break. I've worked a long time, and that's why I also call these I call it, the Middle Age is a comic strip, it's a comic, it's a graphic novel, it's a webcomic. I use those terms interchangeably. There are strips, there are episodes, there are pages. Those all tend to mean the same thing as far as I'm concerned. At least as far as my own work goes. I had a very interesting call yesterday with a marketing firm who has been brought on by a WEBTOON canvas series to help promote it, which I find remarkable. They wanted to pick my brain. They saw some of my YouTube videos and wanted to pick my brain. I'm like, yeah, we have a call, because I've been worried that marketing will invade canvas, WEBTOONs, because like when I talked about how we promote our webcomics in the canvas section, that you know, we get to promote ourselves whenever we post a new episode, and how it's so great that that feature exists, that just simply by posting your latest episode, you could be at the top of the Canvas index and at top of the two genres that your comic's in. And I think that all that's great. But that privilege, that bonus, that perk goes away the more stuff that gets posted. So if someone truly wanted to game the system and just drive up subscriptions, they could post, 100 episodes. Let's say you're me and you've got 272 episodes of your webcomic. I could create a new instance called the Middle Age Classic and just start uploading to a new Webtoons Canvas page a new episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Perhaps they're remastered, perhaps they're page views, perhaps I do them in black and white. I don't know, any kind of variation of what I'm doing. But I could post those, and I could queue them up and have them appear every 5 minutes or so. So the Canvas front page, not the front page, not the curated, editorially created page, but the index, that whole section could be swamped with my work. You know, making it hard for other people to be seen. You know, as soon as you figure out these systems, it's easy to go, okay, some jerk could ruin it. And my worry would be that somebody would do that. So talking to these people, these marketing folks yesterday, I was heartened by their attempt to understand the world. They very much approached it as an old media, or at least as a social media or as an app. That even the world of apps and marketing, films and streaming services is like a generation behind webcomics. Or there's a major distinction between how the two worlds behave, and that is this, and webcomics is this unique culture that is fairly impervious to the kind of press release puffery that traditional marketing teams would employ. Now, these folks were thinking outside the box, but they were still thinking, as far as I was concerned, very, I don't know, everything seems traditional next to webcomics. Webcomics are just so much cooler and newer. But it was interesting, a very interesting conversation. I think the distinction webcomics people tend to have, and I don't know if it's a healthy one, it's that I make money to make my webcomic. I don't make my webcomic to make money. I know it's really splitting hairs. But my goal isn't to cash out on this thing. It's like, if you're a web cartoonist and your thing makes money, you really just want to, you're like, yay, I get to keep making webcomics. Whereas if you make an app, you're like, yay, I made an app, I get my check. I can get out of this business and retire. I don't know. It feels like it might be a more moral thing, or a prettier thing. A more noble thing, maybe. But I'm biased. I don't know, Jim. That's a great question. Jimmy James writes, I wonder if Webtoon has anything in place to not show the same Webtoon more than once per day in the new upload section. I have not seen any kind of regulator on that, any kind of anything that might slow that down. I did some experimenting at one point just to see, okay, how much can I, what can you do with this system? I was working on the video about how to get more readers on Webtoons, and as I was thinking about the different strategies, it was, well, how can you play with the genre system? And I did a little test. So my comic is in the comedy and fantasy genres. But at the time I was running the test, it's also in the romance genre. I mean, I put in the romance genre if that's what the latest episode is about. Although, in retrospect, that's a bad idea, because just because your latest episode is romance, when people who are new to the series click into it, odds are they're not going to see the latest episode. Webtoons is very interesting in that most webcomic, if you have your own hosted web series, or if you're just sharing your stuff on social media, you're sharing the latest episode. But if someone comes in from Webtoons, they're going to see episode 1, because there's that read the first episode button. So all of webcomics up until Webtoons, not all, a lot of webcomics. There are definitely some webcomics that say start reading here, and it's a big old button. But in terms of using new episodes as ads for the series, which I kind of do. Every time I have a new episode, I share it. If I remember, I share it to social media and to Reddit and places like that. And so the new episode acts as an ad for all the episodes that came before it. And that's why switching genre is not great with Webtoons. But what I was saying was, I uploaded it, let's say at 8 o'clock, and then the latest episode always appears in the very first position on the Webtoons index, and on the top of the index of the 2 genres that your webcomic belongs to. And so then I watched and looked and kept refreshing that index on the website. It's easier to refresh the page there. And I looked at how long it took before my comic disappeared off the main index, off the comedy genre front page, and off the fantasy front page. And while it was on the front page of as soon as it went off the top of comedy, which is their largest genre, once it left the front of comedy, I went in and changed the genre from fantasy comedy to fantasy romance, or fantasy historical, or something, some other genre, and immediately checked that historical section, and there it was, much high, in that index. As soon as you change genres, your comic will appear in different indexes. That's very interesting that it's that responsive with no lag. It seemed to have zero lag, unlike Restream. Well, right now I'm going to say Restream is the bottleneck for the lag. Maybe not exclusively, not all the time, but I changed servers and my lag went from being around 30% to about 20%. And for a while there, it was perfectly. And again, all the bitstream tests and all the stream tests I ran from my ISP and from my connection, I was getting 20 megabyte upstream. So that I have any lag at all is just kind of infuriating. It vexes me. Again, this is one of the few comic panels so far that don't show our hero Quimp in it. But after doing that test and seeing how long it takes the strip to leave each section, I feel like there was any actionable information gathered from that experiment. I didn't leave it going, aha, this will be helpful to know. So I basically abandoned that investigation. Oh, good, NPC. I helpful. It was nice that these marketing folks reached out. It's like they saw my episodes. They'd apparently taken much of them to heart, incorporated some of the things I suggested. I feel like there are some structural impediments that they're dealing with that make it impossible for anybody to really game the system. You know, they're trying to... The trouble with marketing departments is they have to show the results of what they've done. You know, you give them X amount of money, and they want to say, here, look what we did. And don't know what the... They might be able to get 100,000 people to watch a TV show by doing by pulling on the levers of social media or something. But it's a lot harder to get 1,000 subscribers on Webtoons in the Canvas section than it is to do any of those things. I mean, unless you're willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars, which they were, but I'm not sure what's to be from what would be gained from such a expenditure. Max Powers Comic writes, what part of the Middle Age was your favorite to make? Also, what made you of this particular episode? I'm not sure about a favorite. I think I liked when Quip hit with all his arrows. That was again something that I really had no intention going into that chapter that that's what would happen. You know, establish that he can't be killed, or that he can't be stopped, at least. And once that was established, you know, that kind of allowed me to go crazy with, like, okay, let's say he gets hit with an arrow, it doesn't matter. He gets hit with a sword, it doesn't matter. The sky, it doesn't matter. So once he knew about it, once Quimp was aware of his status, that opened up the opportunity for me to really kind of go crazy and have him just full of arrows. It also was... There was a drawing that was in one of those episodes that really made me feel like, oh wow, maybe I am a cartoonist. That it felt really good. I'm also not great at drawing women, I don't think. Or ducks, or much of anything, frankly. But you know, I feel like I don't think if I draw a duck wrong that I'm being disrespectful. So I'm always cautious of how I draw women in an effort not to be, you know, not to be weird, you know. So it's something I've had female characters in all my stories. Well, no, not Bloop. But I only had one human in that story. So this whole series is kind of me stretching myself. Like I didn't know how to draw these baby dragons. I didn't know how to draw ducks. I didn't know how to draw everything. I mean, heck, I kind of learned how to draw hands during this whole thing. So yeah, it's fun. I'm glad I didn't shy away from the things I'm not all that comfortable drawing, because I've gotten better at all of it, I think. So the previous music I was using was inspired... I was searching for stuff that was sort of John Williams, magical, fantasy stuff. I used a lot of keywords when searching in the stock music library that were things like fantasy and magic and things like that. Evocative of stuff, and Howard Shore stuff from Lord of the Rings, things like that. But I wanted upbeat. Everything had to be upbeat, peppy. I didn't want people falling asleep. This latest one, these tracks, And I will bounce back and forth. I just was trying to spice things up a little bit. Spice, barely, you know. This is not a spicy stream. Oh, Max Powers, talking about shying away. Max Powers writes, I was the way with drawing cities, backgrounds, and debris. Well, good for you. It's really helpful. I mean, because you're just going to be bad at it till you're good at it. So it's not a big deal. I mean, some people, I guess, just are born fully capable of of drawing all the tough things. But I think most of us have to work at it. Jimmy James writes, don't shy away from the human form. You do. Oh, that's very kind. He's complimenting me, and I'm changing the subject. Thank you, James. Of this new music, I typed in baking show. So it should be of the Great British Bake Off, without any of the musical bits that were meant to stress people. They have a kind of a countdown theme when 5 minutes left, bakers, and that's when I'm clutching my chest. Yeah, I see some streams. We have quite a few drop frames, getting closer to 25%. If that number gets 30 again, I'm just going to end the stream, and I'm going to spend the time researching other streaming companies. Because if I'm doing this, I spend all this time trying to make my comic look good, and if I'm going to be distracting myself a bit while talking and drawing, it should at least be for something that is up to a certain standard. And the thing is, it's fixable. I'm sure I can find a service that provides that's not too expensive. But if Restream can't do it, then they can't do it. And if it turns out that another provider gives me a similar problem, then that will at least help me identify myself as the problem. And then at that point, it's like, okay, if it's not the bandwidth, is it the hardware? Do I need to get a new rig? I hope that is not the case. But you all are incredibly lovely. I really appreciate everyone who's watching right now, but I would also completely understand if someone didn't watch, if they logged into and just saw, a slideshow. Some of these shadows on this fellow are a little too much. Jimmy James asked, how did you end up fixing your mic? That was a USB throughput issue. So by removing as many USB devices as possible before I start streaming, that opened up the fantastic microphone I have to pump through all the info it's picking up. It's a beautiful mic, and it's much. I tried the other ones. I tried the built-in microphone. I tried the one that's included in my webcam. All of those have a cavernous sound, but this one is actually very beautiful. But it's also older, and it might be too good. So it was any other USB resources were telling my microphone to wait its turn. I think that's what it was, and so my microphone would keep dropping out. And there was no way to fine-tune the settings on the microphone to lower its particular bit rate. There might be a software solution, but that's not compatible with my older operating system, and I refused. I already updated my operating system just to install this streaming platform, and even that was risky. I don't want to set back all my work and, you know, my entire process, risk losing some legacy applications just because, you know, I'm like, I should stream like a anywho. So it was that was a solution for that. The main USB culprit was my Cintiq. Once I unplug the inputs from my Cintiq, so I can still have it as a display while I stream, but the USB inputs, which detect the pen and detect the buttons around the Cintiq, once I pulled that out, apparently it was continually pinging the Cintiq looking for, hey, you there? Are we getting inputs? That sort of thing. So once that was unplugged, my microphone much better. But it still suffers from the bandwidth issues, like the kilobytes per second of, you know, I'm getting like, it's going like dial-up speed every once in a while. I see that red light, and it frustrates me. Okay, Max Powers Comics asks, all right. I also find the story of Naruto's art evolution interesting. A character model artist working on the show had a style that the creator liked and changed the manga style to match the show. That's great. I totally get that. That's wonderful. I like that people would be open to that. LJ, oh, there's my, I will scroll up as not to interrupt myself. LJ, we're talking about drawing women, and I was talking about that and trying to respectfully. LJ writes, I dislike beach ball chests on fantasy comic women. That and insanely small, near-naked costumes, especially in fight or battle scenes, when the male characters have tons of clothing and protection. Oh, I totally get that. It's so patently obvious what the writers are doing. It's all fan service, or I don't know. It's like textbook male gaze stuff. That's one of the things I really about them. This is one of the things I like about my own work. It's smug hour with Steve. I'll go from being self-effacing to being proud of my own work. But I didn't want to do that in my story. It's not that I'm super proud of it. It's just, it's more like that I didn't want that. That's why when the story starts off with our hero rescuing his love, I knew it was all designed at some point that she would say, or Phosphonate would say, you know, I'm a dragon. I don't need saving. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted them to have great armor. They're fairly. Their costumes are still fantasy-like. There's some cleavage in Phosphonate's design, and definitely in Vesica's design. Vesica was the. I want to say she was the older daughter, but she was definitely designed to be more of a Morticia kind of. There's lots of draped black fabric, but not meant to be. You know, it's not meant to be titillating. I hate using that word in this context, but that's the right one. It's not meant to be that kind of arousing drawing that you see some people do. It's like clearly meant to, I don't know, attract the wrong audience, or attract an audience for the wrong reason. Not that it's a bad audience or there's anything wrong with people who draw those kinds of comics. It's just, I think that's a specific audience, and it has a specific effect, which I think, like everything else, it's fine as long as it's like everything's fine as long as it's intentional. And I don't mean everything's fine morally. I mean, as an artist, if you're doing something that is expressive, and I mean, it's okay as a creative endeavor, be in as much as if you do something wrong, right or wrong is iffy, we're moving into moral territory or philosophical territory. Intention matters so much, and like a lot of people do something or say something and they'll be like, well, I didn't intend that. And I'm like, well, then you did a bad job communicating. So as long as you know what the tools in your toolbox can do, then you can tell stories with intent. They all have intention. Your work can match your intent, and you don't have to be put on the defensive by saying intend that. Well, because when anyone says, well, I didn't intend that, or that's not what I meant, that's kind of like saying, well, you what you were doing. Because if our primary job is as communicators, then we should know what effect our words and pictures have. And I don't want my words and pictures to have that effect. I don't think I could have said that in a more long-winded way. YouTube is skipped, but just barely. I'm in a poor Wi-Fi area. I still think it's me. When I watch a replay, and my down speeds are great. Jimmy James, I liked how J. Scott Campbell draws figures. Yeah, exactly. That's like his stuff is meant to be sexy and cute and all that stuff. But it's not like he's not trying to do that. And it suits the genre of the material he's doing. It's all about and that's what his audience wants. But if I started drawing if I introduced a character who looked like a J. Scott Campbell character, J. Scott Campbell has a specific audience, and I would suddenly bring that audience coming into my story, and I'm not sure if that audience wants this. So what would I end up doing? Let's say you do something, maybe not to intentionally bump up your numbers, but you do something. You do something, and suddenly oh wow, everybody's here for that one character who I drew like J. Scott Campbell. Does everything else get pushed aside because you want to maintain those numbers for that audience? That sort of thing. Again, I have a problem with anybody drawing anything they want. I know there are some creators who do not safe for work content, and that's the stuff they're comfortable drawing, and that's what their audience wants, and good for everybody involved. But that's not the story I'm telling. I don't think every story needs to be a morality play or and also I also think that when J. Scott Campbell draws that's true to him. I suspect he does not feel like he's compromising or being less of himself when he draws that. I think he's like what my sense is that when he sits down at a blank sheet of paper, even if he's just going to throw the thing out, that's the sort of stuff he would draw. It's very him, and I think that's awesome. And the stuff that I sit down when I want to draw something, even if I'm going to throw it out, it's going to be silly stuff like this. It'll be Quimp, it'll be ducks, it'll be wizards, it'll be dragons. And that's where I'm comfortable. LJ writes, those other styles are way over the top. The Middle Ages balance. Oh, that's sweet. That's, you know, I have felt a little uneasy at times with some jokes I've made, because it will be like, you know, some of them feel like a little bit too easy a joke, or maybe too crass. But this isn't. But that's also why I included those early on. Partly I thought, this isn't highfalutin. This is a very low-falutin comic. I'm not sure what falutin means. I should look up what highfalutin is. I know what highfalutin means. I just don't know if there's any other levels of falutin. But I will not race out and purchase falutin.com. LJ writes, nothing wrong with that type of fantasy art. I can choose to click away. Just that they don't apply the same standards to... Yeah, they don't apply the same standards to both genders. I think that's fair. That's fair. I think that is... Yeah. Well, once we get into gender, it starts getting into, you know, the adolescent has, you know, quality of many North American comics and comic books. The young audience, the kind of fumbling their way through identity and figuring out who they are and what they like and what they can get away with seeing, and it's a very... It all strikes me as very awkward. Like brains with training wheels. Or souls with training wheels. Like they're still so much out. Kind of charming. And then it all gets muddied up with stuff like making a quick buck. Like if you do mature stuff, people have been willing to, you know, one of the adult content was like one of the driving forces of internet commerce, and remains that way. So I know some people are successful, some cartoonists are successful with Patreon campaigns that are very, I don't know, very Cinemax. But then again, so did HBO. I mean, so much of HBO's early content, like First and 10 and Dream On and Arliss, was just like one gratuitous bit of nudity, like very unbalanced from the get-go, just because they could and because people were going to pay for it. You know, it's not TV, it's just awkward fan service. But to, you know, to each their own. And I know I'm certain I have some readers who like both, who like so many things. So also, I'm just not the right guy for that sort of stuff. There's a video guy, Hank Green, video guy. He also does SciShow, an absolutely remarkable novelist, absolutely remarkable thing. He and his brother do the Vlog Brothers video series, and DFTBA.com, all that stuff. But he was on an interview. He was, I forget who was interviewing him, but he described himself as aggressively non-sexual, at least his online persona. That would be his approach to the internet, and that is a very that's my wheel. Well, I like when he said that. I felt like, okay, kindred. People are here for the cute little dragons, and I will remain inert as I should be. All right, I like that guy. That guy, we've been on a journey with this knight. He started off looking so different, and I kind of like him. I don't think he'll be a recurring character. Yeah, superhero genre is a whole different ballgame. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, the superhero genre is a really interesting one. In at least in American comics, it's very. I mean, it grew out of like, I think, out of male power fantasies, and so it's a big part of its DNA. It's not that it's exclusive, but that it remains such a presence in everything you see. You know, the Hellfire X-Men, where, you know, Sebastian Shaw is like, he's wearing an ascot and he's got this outfit on, and then you've got Emma Frost on the other side, where she's just basically, you know, someone's copying out of a Victoria's Secret catalog. Lois said in an interview, LJ's writing this in the chat, Lois said in an interview that she draws modest young women versus guys because that's where the income is. Huh. That's a... Yeah, I don't know what would happen. I mean, it's a challenging thing that if you draw something and it gets you a lot more in as an artist, you know, how do you say no to that? I don't feel like I could ever tell another artist that, you know, don't do that, or that's not right. You know, it's like, I don't know. You know what it is. It's hard to, if they're putting food on their table. Again, we get back to Jean Valjean. That's how Eponine's going to get... Eponine is going to get a sandwich. Who am I to... Who cares what I think? But the thing is, if it's all you see... Comics are so weird, especially comic books. I'll go with that. I keep thinking about comic books because I'm working on a comic book version of the Middle Age. Again, it's not new content. It's the same content, just done in comic book format. And I can't think of another medium that the primary method of delivery is also collectible. That might have been the case back in the... I don't even think records were. People think of vinyl records now as collectibles, but I don't think they were thought of in that way back in the day. They certainly are now. I think they're made specifically for collectors. But comics are just... The primary method of delivery is a collectible. That's gotta be weird. It's baffling. I can't. If anybody could think of another way that's done, it's a. One of these things where people would say, they wouldn't say, do you read comics? They're like, do you collect comics? I think that's very telling. I'm turning these layers on and off to make sure if I've actually worked on that panel or not. Putting in the second pass of highlights. path, the steps after this will be putting in the red shadow, the red coloration of the nose and the ears and cheeks, and then one more pass of kind of a heavy shadow, and then a highlight, like my usual highlight effect, and I think that'll be it. Neither of these characters, yeah, that'll for these guys. Oh, and then the super, when I put that highlight, I'll also give a little highlight to the nose. Set this to multiply. I mentioned it briefly that I did watch a bit of Eternals last night, and I found it very drab, like and the storytelling is very, it's nice that they were doing something than the classic Marvel thing. It didn't feel like all the other Marvel movies, but wow, did it take a while to get going. You know, the closing sequences in Lord of the Rings where it's like, you know, the movie ended, and then in Return of the King, the movie ended, and then the movie ended, and then the movie ended a few times. That's how that movie started. It started, and then it started, and then it started. So if you start that movie at the 40-minute mark, I don't think you will have missed much. I think you'll be like, oh, this is a fun movie. But what would ruin the experience for watching it would be every time there's a flashback, if you say previously on Eternals, like I did, that'll ruin it for you. So don't do that. Or do it. It might be more fun. Previously on Eternals. I think they also have the problem that the Eternals in the comics had, which was these are not, you know, this is essentially not a action-adventure story as much as it is a mythology that artist, very well deserving of a lot of latitude, really stretched his, really and did a lot of stuff. So this movie is also introducing you to a mythology, and they're trying to do it in an entertaining way, which is tough, but most of the movie felt like the extended scenes that you'd see in the outtakes or the DVD extras. It just goes on and on. So structurally, I thought it was not great. And then effects-wise, it suffers from all the stuff the DC Comics movies suffer from. It's or even like the main villains were sort of like the villains of Justice League or the first Avengers movie. Loki was a standout character, but all the other villains were very much CGI, overdone, textured out the wazoo. It's almost like you get the sense the CGI designers were so happy with the thing they came up with that they just said, oh, that looks really cool, let's do that. And it's just too much. At some point, you've added so much ornamentation that there's no character to it. And Kirby's stuff was bold. Kirby's stuff was like Jack, creator of the Eternals, the designer of all of them. His stuff was everything was made of bricks. Every character was of iron, and he's a, you know, they all weigh a ton. Just massive characters, powerful, iconic characters, and this movie was wispy by comparison. And I don't know if there was any backlash. Icarus in the comics, kind of blonde Adonis, and in the movie, they kind of cast a guy who looks a bit like Superman. You know, he's from the Game of Thrones films. I don't recall any backlash from fans about that. So apparently the fans are absolutely cool with you changing characters and changing the designs of characters, except in some instances. And all their complaints go one way. Where are we? Eternally on Eternals. Okay, I understood what these random bits of Russian gobbledygook are. What they gain from it, why it exists. I'm strangely more excited for the Peacemaker series on HBO, just because John Cena is just so damn charming. The Peacemaker character was created by an artist named Pat Boyette, and I really wish he were alive to see his character on the screen. I don't know if he would appreciate the joking take on him, but I also know DC is much better at paying artists royalties, so it would be nice that he if he would have gotten a payday. So Peacemaker was created by an artist named Pat Boyette for Charlton Comics, and the Charlton Comics were all the inspirations for, or most Charlton characters were inspirations for the characters in Watchmen. That's how most people know the Peacemaker and characters like that. But I commissioned Pat Boyette for my Astounding Space Thrill series to do a pinup of my character. And he drew him in that kind of initial Peacemaker style where he's running with the revolver. He turned it into like a ray gun for my character. It's lovely. It's lovely. So I included that in the book, and when I mailed that book to Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, because I'm a big Ditko fan, I mailed him the book with a letter, and I was trying to get Ditko to produce a pinup for me. And he declined. In retrospect, I understand why. I think my story was at odds with his philosophy. But he had very nice things to say about Pat Boyette, which was very he liked to see he liked seeing Pat Boyette's work in the book. I thought that was really cool. adding a little more shadow. Sometimes just under the eyes I put a little more dark shadow, just to, there's that kind of corner right in here which just, it gets really deep, really shadowy in those crooks. But I stopped watching the Eternals about halfway through to watch more of the Great British Baking Show. John, I haven't seen him in anything. I think you're being facetious, right? Is it? You haven't, or do you mean you haven't seen him in everything? Yeah, for a while there, a lot of actors get the running joke of that they are in everything. Michael Caine was that way for a while. Giovanni Ribisi was in everything for a while. There's actors who just, they're known for being in everything. I think he's getting there. He's in comedies, and then he's in... the pandemic didn't seem to slow him down. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna keep those shadows. I'm gonna soften them just a bit, a little heavy. And then we're gonna do hair. We're gonna do the eyes, the highlights, I mean. I sadly was out of wrestling fandom by the time he came around. I'm putting in now just some extra shadows around the eyes for the depth. I need to put the highlights in on this panel too. I haven't done that yet. I will do that right now before I forget. No idea how many people are currently watching this on the various platforms, but or if Jimmy James has 35 accounts and you're watching them across all the various networks, which I appreciate. I'll be right back. I'm gonna put a light on. Tried standing up and my leg almost went out from under me. How's the if folks are there? How's the music? Is this at least as good as the previous one, the fantasy music? I'm amazed at watching these drops and the frames drop. Of this, 30% of my frames have dropped. So. Very frustrating. Every once in a while I see the kilobytes per second drop to 0. It's very vexing. Oh, good. Thanks, James. All right. I think the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through with a light. Let me lower this. I just dropped that red overlay lower on the list of layers. I think I'm hearing audio without any drop. I think the audio's been good since the USB, and I think Stream prioritizes audio over video. So the audio has been better, but the drop frames, 40,000 drop frames, and the best 40,000 frames, I'm certain of it. That mustache could be thicker. Which one is this? It's the P2 King. My brush, black, new layer above the king. Let's go the mustache up a touch. Oop, not that much. What show I am enjoying is, I'm not just naysaying, I am enjoying the heck out of the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know where it's going, but I'm enjoying seeing that world. I'm enjoying seeing these characters. I think Jon Favreau can do no wrong, apparently. And again, in this page, it's still nighttime. They're inside a tent. So the tent has some lighting, some candle lighting, but it shouldn't be super bright. It should be... things should be in shadow. And the best lit place in the world, but I do want their faces. I do want the faces to read a bit better, so I'm putting just a little highlight on them. Okay. I think we're good for now. No sooner do I say that when I want to go back and just add one little bit of multiplication on the guard's chin, on his jawline. Okay. Oh wait, I'm gonna undo that, and I don't know if I've drawn outside the lines at all, so I'm gonna do that trick of using it as a selection to clean things up. Guard's hair I'm going to do simply. He's not a major character yet. I am thinking about turning it. It was going to be blonde. There are not, I mean, apart from Quimp, there aren't a lot of blonde characters in the story, I don't think. Oh, don't you start. That's very nice of you. So I'll put in some thin hair strokes, things like that, and then I'll make the really fat brush and just very gently to create an obvious taper. I'll just add some additional strokes on top of that to kind of create layers of highlight and shimmer, things like that. Real simple. Putting a little bit of highlight on the guard's hair just to help frame it against the background, but not so much that it looks like it's gray hair. Hopefully. Okay. So by adding the same color, duplicating it and making that a soft light above everything else, it tends to create a more colorful, a lighter, like a light overlay. It's more colorful. It kind of amps things up a little bit. That makes it not look like, I don't know, that the hair is dead or something like that. Well, I'm really popular among the robots. That's important to me. Is there anything they can't ruin? I like to think that, James. I like to think my kindness here, giving them a place to vent. I'm not saying that all robots are steam engines. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they vent. But hopefully they will spare me. That would be nice. That's nice to think. So this gray metal color is the kind of color I would put on all the Quimps metal. It's a little too rich a color. I think it's a little too bright and bluish. I'm gonna pull the color out of that with a color layer in a moment. It's too much. So I can the black and then set that layer there, and that will that'll pull all the color out. So I'm gonna do that and then lower its opacity a little bit so some of the warm colors are still there, but it's primarily monochromatic. I think it'll make it look more like metal. And there I am. One robot to another. I too can play your spammy games. Okay, where are we? We're going to add a little highlight to that helmet. But I have deselected the helmet, so I'm going to have to do that trick again of reselecting it. Although I kind of like that way the colors affect the hair there. That highlight is really creating the sense of it's a dome that's pushing the hair out as it comes out from under the hair. I'm gonna add that kind of little cascading effect in a moment. I like that a lot. Oh, I did the wrong button again. Okay, King's Crown. I think I'm going to add some... I'm definitely going to add some ornament to the King's Crown. I was looking at that, and compared to everything else, it really needs something going on. Come on, what's going on here? Okay. I want to keep the pattern on the king's helmet very loose, very decorative, and kind of nondescript, so that if later on I can indicate what's on the helmet, like in a more serious way, I will do that. But this is neither the time nor the place. So again, my name is Steve Conley. I'm a web cartoonist and have been for a very long time. I cordially invite you to read my comic on WEBTOON's Tapas, GoComics, and on my own website, middleagecomic.com. I also beg you on bended knee to consider becoming a supporter of mine on Patreon. Where you will be able to download a number of free books. Five. At the $5 level, you can download 11 free books, all PDFs, with another sketchbook in the works. So the people who've been watching this stream will recognize the sketches and some of the process drawings from along the way. Okay. This weekend I'm a guest at two conventions, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. The Central Florida Comic Con in Lakeland, Florida, which is kind of near Orlando. And then the DeLand Comic Book Convention. That'll be there on Sunday. I hope everybody is well behaved and well vaccinated. Hope nobody gets. Hope I don't get sick. These comics won't draw themselves. So now I'm just putting on the highlight so it matches the highlight on everything else. And then I will clean up the outsides. Okay. Okay, we're at about the halfway point. I'm gonna take a quick break. Looks like the stream is picking up steam. I hope everybody's having a lovely Thursday. I will be right back. I'm gonna get a beverage and stretch a little bit, and I will be right back. And I'm back. Hope everyone's having a lovely time. I'm looking at you, restream service. Hoping that all the drop frames are ugly ones. Oh, I didn't have my little lights on behind me. There we go. That's so much better. Oh, look at that. How space age that is. It's like everything's connected with Velcro and everything tastes of tang. Okay, eyes and teeth. But I'm going to say it. So far, 2022 is okay in my book. I was approached by someone to do some design work, which looks like it'll be fun, and they seem to be nice people. It's exciting. I've got 2 conventions, both of which seem to be taking the necessary precautions to keep attendees alive, which my favorite customers, my favorite readers, tend to be alive. Again, another spam bot comment from how bewildering. It must mean something. It must be fooling some search engine. I don't know how. It's only on YouTube. You'd think Google would have had this all sorted out. Dinosaur Studio. I have trouble using the default pens, getting a nice crisp yet thin line. Any recommendations? Yes. If you check out my Patreon page, there is a free brush called Steve's Brush. It's a free thing. I think if you're able to search on Patreon at all, again, it's free. Totally. You don't have to become a Patreon supporter or anything like that. But this brush I use for everything. It was something that I pretty much solidified years ago. I use it as my eraser. I use it for almost all my line work, and I know a lot of other cartoonists do now as well. So if you want to check that out. Yeah, I will be doing that. I even wrote one of the conventions, LJ, asking about is any way to make sure there's a little extra room around the table. I mean, I'm happy to have a smaller table with more breathing room. I am double vaxxed and boosted, so I don't suspect I'll I mean, even if the worst thing happened, and I have to take that into account. That's what I do about like every time I go to the grocery store, and this was pre-pandemic. You know, if I was getting very much expecting everything to go wrong. So I very much am a worrier. So I'm taking every precaution. And if for some reason people aren't behaving themselves and I feel uncomfortable, I just told them I'm going to leave. And they were okay. Does my brush work in Clip Studio Paint? I don't know. A lot of my tweaks were specific for Procreate. How their relates to the Apple Pencil and how their brushes. I didn't need to do it. I like the brushes that came right out of the package with the original Procreate, but along the way they added tons of features. They keep introducing new, extra features, and one of them was about brush sensitivity and putting a little more to the brushes, which is lovely, but maybe a little too much. Suddenly, a lot of the default functionality became, to me, way too touchy. And so I worked on a brush for a while that gave me the feeling I wanted. And I've been very happy with it. And I know a bunch of cartoonists who still use it. So it's called Steve's Brush. And I didn't make a brush pack or anything like that. Jimmy James asks, excited to get back on the convention circuit? Hopeful. My sense is that this whole thing is the new normal. So I hope, as long as people think the new normal means continuing to take precautions and continuing to play it safe and not overwhelming, people respond to this question and often in such a self, not talking about present company, I'm not considering us, but from what I hear and from what I see third-party people doing is their reactions are always very selfish. They're like, well, I'm okay, I'm vaccinated, blah blah blah. It's like, it's not about that. It's about overwhelming the hospitals and stuff like that. So as long as we're thoughtful to the healthcare workers and making sure that just considerate. Everyone's just considerate. For a little while there, I thought people would be considerate, but there's a real pushback against that concept. How dare you, sir, telling me to be considerate? I think I like that. Okay, where are we? And CSP does have stabilization, and I know, I have not tweaked the stabilization on my brush. Basically, I don't even know if that's a setting that if it does it on there. And if it does, it was never one I tweaked. I don't want it. Yeah, I have none. I'm a big fan of letting my hand beat. I want that in the line. Stabilization can be fine for drawing. Like, I think if I were drawing a Transformers comic, I would live with it. Oh yeah. I know. I recognize that people can still get it. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to catch it. So far, I've not caught it. I live in Florida. I do take every precaution I can. I also just don't want to get anybody else sick. That's what it comes down to. It's so much not about me. You wear a mask to protect others, not yourself. That sort of thing. I think the mask gives you 20% protection, which I view as a +4 armor class. But it gives everyone around you like 70% protection. So if you have it and you're wearing the mask, you're less likely to transmit it. And I'm all about that. I think if people viewed it as neighborliness, and that I'm wearing a mask to protect you, it's a golden rule kind of thing. Anyway, fantastic. Dinosaur Studio writes, thanks for the brush. Thanks for the brush. Can't wait to try it. I'll also check out your comic on WEBTOON. Cool. I hope you like it. I'm using Procreate to make a fantasy comic someday soon. That's wonderful. That's great. Please share it when it's posted. We'd like to see it. Yeah, LJ. The stabilization, I tend not to use it. I have a variation of my brush with I made a copy of it with a little bit of stabilization, which I often use for my word balloons. Okay, where were we? I still feel like his face is a little dark there. It's very ruddy. I'm not sure if I sense that he goes out that much. Where do I have any? Yeah, I still have it. I'm gonna just lighten it up a little more. Yeah, I only use 2 brushes for almost everything I do. My brush, which I've tweaked and tweaked and tweaked until I got it where I wanted it. And then a big old watercolor brush, which I use in glazes. Glazing with art is generally the idea that... Oh, those are set to normal. They should be set to screen. Hopefully I didn't just blow out the... Oh no, I like that. Glazing is just like one little effect on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. But I think of the coloring I do in that way. And you see that with the boots that I sometimes color for our hero, they'll look really dark, and then they look fine, but I want to go back and add color because, I want to screen away some of the heaviness because I want people to be able to see them. I mean, I spent all that time drawing them. I want it to read well. Okay. I'm just going to leave that layer by itself just because it did that extra work. If I hate it later on, I'll tweak it. Okay, now the Kings, like I mentioned before, I don't know if folks are there, it might have been on the previous stream because of we had that little intermission in the beginning, and so far the light has stayed mostly green through this. Not epic, not as it was before, but choosing this new restream thing, I don't like that there's 50,000 drop frames, but oh, and Jimmy Monstro writes Dinosaur Studio, and that I totally agree, that is an incredibly cool name. But these colors on the King's fancy new duds are not in no way final. Where are we? I think the piping should be a light color. I'm going to start this with gray, and we'll take it from there. I think the trim should be a lighter color, but not the piping. A little darker. But if it's that dark, nobody will see it. No one will see all that work that went into the experimentation, that kind of flowery pattern I put on everything. Also, I think I want this collar to be the same color as the trim. So I'm going to break that off onto its own layer. And select the lighter color. And select the collar again. And fill that with a light gray. Yeah, I like that. Which means I have to fix that down here too. Now this stream is going to run until about 6:30. Okay. Good. I like that. I think the highlights have to be above. Yes. We'll merge those together. Selecting the capes, using that color I had before, I can really add these highlight colors. Oops. Colored outside. Okay. I'm not saying that's perfect. I'm going to say, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to make the pants black. Kind of like that. It's not typical for the comic at all to have any areas of that heavy color, but I kind of like it. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I have this sleeve on the shirts layer. I colored that incorrectly. So LJ, if you're there, what do you think of the new music? I know you like the previous one a lot. This is not the it's not a permanent change. It's just a mixing things up so people don't go nuts. Well, people are going to go nuts, but just so it's not the same thing. Tell you what, maybe it's not pure black. But really, really, really close. No, I like it pure black. Even though it kind of hides what's going on with his arm there, you know, it makes the area under his arm really fill in. LJ, I'm not entirely sure we're ever going to see flashback as how they got captured. I think we're going to have there may be an explanation, but not a full-on flashback for it. I don't know if it warrants the full flashback. It starts. I just saw Eternals last night, so I'm going to be flashback averse for a little while. If you saw Aquaman with the very handsome Jason Momoa, that had too many flashbacks as well. And at some point, I was like, there's got to be like a name for flashback whiplash, where you just don't, you know, at some point the reader's like, well, why are we, or the viewer, why are we doing this? Okay, so no, the sleeves can't be pure black, because the interior of the cape pure black, then the whole figure is just going to vanish. I like the idea of the cape being black. So let me just do that so I don't forget. I think the idea that they were captured and I think how they were captured will make sense. At first I think people would be like, well, how do you ever capture Phosphonate? She's amazing, but you know, she's got her collar, she's sick, you know, she still has the ailment, even if I think the notion is that Vesica was infected ages ago, and whatever the cure was, I don't think it was infected. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't lost on me that this whole story was taking place while during the pandemic. There was a scene right after this, the stock market tumbled here, and finally it was dawning on the American populace that, oh, this bird flu, this SARS is going to hit here. And it didn't really, I don't think they realized that until the stock market took a hit. That's when it became real. And even then it still wasn't real. They spent 3 days going, oh, it's a correction. It was a correcting for exuberance. They're just correcting. And then a week later, they're like, no, this is bad. This is going to affect everything. And then everyone starts buying paper. When the Wall Street traders are weeping, people start stocking up on canned goods, water, and toilet paper. But there was a scene where Phosphonate contracts the ailment, and she's reaching up and touching the face of the dragon. And right after all the stuff, don't touch your face, don't touch your face, don't touch your face. Here's a drawing of her touching the dragon's face, and I'm like, I was drawing that as the news was coming up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this story, a big communicable disease, curse thing. I was like, my story is supposed to be specifically not contemporary and not topical. That felt too weird. That's very nice, LT. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I thought mixing it up would be nice. Okay, as long as it's not what I really don't want is I don't want it to be annoying. So that's nice. Okay, if I brighten up, it's important to have these values for reasons. The boots, the belt, and the gloves are all going to be the same, roughly the same. It should be a dark. No, it should be a mid-tone, because you don't want bright colored gloves because they'll get dirty, and boots will get dirty, but you don't want them so dark because then all the drawing is lost. So given Phosphonate's condition, I think capturing them is not, I think the whole idea was something was going to try to get them back to the Ambrosian fields, kind of a safe zone. I would say that if they were, that we'll probably never see this portion of it, but in my head, Phosphonate recognized, as did Melvin, that there was a zone around the cottage, and that their ability to be magically detected from within that zone would be thwarted. So there's sort of a detection zone around an aura or some kind of field around the cottage or the remains of the cottage, and it didn't affect after, because it wasn't until they were leaving the cottage for a little while that suddenly they were able to sense things again. So I think if something and Phosphonate on their walk back, they would probably think, let's either go to the Ambrosian fields or go back roughly to that cottage area, or at least stop in the cottage area along the way so they couldn't be detected on their way back. But that didn't mean that they couldn't be discovered by dragon hunters or the King's Guard or orcs for that matter. So things could get hairy in a way. But so far we're only taking Bob's word that Phosphonate's been captured. I wouldn't want to spoil anything, but I think there's a lot that could have happened that we have not seen. Oh, that's Bob's sleeve as well, and I have that on the wrong layer. All right, where are we? Oh yeah, she was horribly stabbed. Yeah, it was one of the things where it's like you want, I wanted to make it clear that she's incredibly competent and powerful, but she is way off her game, and she's not a damsel in distress in any way, but I really like that moment that I had not planned. It just sort of happened and she says, I guess you're gonna get to save me after all, or you get to try to save me after all, or something like that. It was, Quimp says, I'm just as surprised as you, something like that, where to me says that by that point Quimp is reckoning with the fact that it's over, or reckoning with the fact that her message to him was what he never wanted it to be. Like Jimmy, again, it's wise, like John Cena. I think, I'm not sure what that is reference to, but it feels true. Like John Cena. This chat is fantastic. It's the healthiest part of my week, I think. Okay. Yeah, he has a shirt which I've been loath to get in here. I don't always start with these kind of gray values for things, but I think it's important to get get everything right. And then I think the tabard would be a light color. That or the cape goes very light. The cape could go very light. And I do think the belts will be the same color as the gloves. Oh, that's too light. Let's just do value. Let's just... Yeah, still too light. I'm gonna grab the same color as the piping. Okay. All right, okay. A lot we have yet to see you say. Absolutely right, James. I get it now. That's great. LJ writes, I started the Middle Age well after COVID, just before I became a patron. Thank you. I think the further away we get from COVID, the less those references will have an impact. I think that's true too. I think this will hopefully last. I mean, again, I hope this is a story that, you know, will resonate for not resonate. That's the wrong word. I hope people will like it in the future, and that I specifically don't include cultural references just so we never have to deal with that kind of nonsense. I'm not a fan of that storytelling. I don't want it to. I don't want this to age poorly. I'm sure it will, though. I mean, okay. So let's say the King's Tabard has a reversed. That face is reversed. But I'm going to say this. I was very happy with how this chest came together. I just liked that it was open, a little crack, clothes were coming out of it a little bit. That felt really good to me. Anyway. Okay, so it's possible that's on the ornament layer. It is on the ornament layer. Every once in a while I do something halfway smart. Except that was an example of one of the things I do that is not. I cut from the wrong layer. I found the ornament layer and then I cut from the wrong layer. Okay, here we go. Trying again. Cut and paste. Okay, so now I'm going to select that emblem, go below the inks, and then fill that with color. I think it stops being it stops having that effect after a while. I'm just going to move this down there, and I may sort that out at a later time. Or I might just leave it as is and lighten the color of the thing up. I just thought trying to... Surprise is full of himself, King is a dream. Oh, the colors aren't finalized. The colors aren't finalized. His tabard color is purple. So the knight, I think all the knights are wearing, I believe, a purple tabard. I want to say that this king made everybody wear the same tabard once he took over, once he got the throne. And that's why the flashback with other knights, they're wearing various tabard colors, because that's what the previous king didn't have such a rule. King Aether. Wait, no. This is Aether. King Neither. Okay. NPC asked a question about regret. I regret this guy isn't King Neither. I just thought the idea of either, because you got Arthur, Uther, all these kings of old, and the idea that one would be neither, either, made me giggle. So, and this one, King Aether. I think, I wish there was more symbolism to that name or something like that. It was basically just trying to be like another kingly name. It was going to be full of hot air, but that's not exactly what Aether is. A bit vast. All those are stretches. It was just more about the cadence of the name, and that it was different, and that sometimes you pick a name just so they don't look like each other. Like, you don't have, for the most part, you don't have characters start their names with the same initials. So, kind of a mistake in this is Melvin and Maledicta. Yeah, very different, and I call Maledicta the Woeblade a lot, things like that, but that is not ideal, I think. But yeah, the colors are going to be... These are not finalized by any stretch. It's more like trying to get the balance right. What part's light, which part's dark. And so... And I can always... And then what I'll do at the end is, for instance, I can select... Let's blend all these tabards together. Oh no, let me keep that a separate... I need that separate tabard color for the... At the end, I can move this color above whatever I decide, and then just set the color to that level, and then, so if I have a layer on top and all the colors, they can apply to whatever's underneath it. So you can do all the modeling, and it's kind of like how Alex Ross works. He does everything kind of as a grayscale drawing, as grayscale watercolor, and then adds colors on top. I feel like at least when you're doing the character design, that helps a bit. But yeah, I don't want this color. His clothes are going to be a lot brighter. His clothes specifically will be a lot brighter. Okay. Do some background stuff. I'm gonna keep working on those costumes, but where are we? That. The tent poles in the background will need some color. Let's do those. While I'm sorting out some other stuff, I will go and do the other I know I can do. That way I'm not losing time staring at the drawing. And I suspect the ribbons that are hanging, purple will be a big accent color for the king. You know, it's a purple's a real color, so it was kind of an easy choice. It's also a secondary color, and Quimp is very much all prime. Again, it made it an easy choice. I'm going to color these without the balloons. That way if I want to sample them for a thumbnail or, I don't know, use them in some other regard, that I still have them. I think the baby dragons, I think I drew around. Yeah. No, I did. I actually... Where are the baby dragons? On what layer are they? There they are, layer 42. P4 baby dragons. So I will color this background without the baby dragons in it. That way if I need to move them or need to make any tweaks, or if I want to reuse this background in a future episode, it will be easy to grab it without those figures. And if at the last minute I go, oh wait, these baby dragons shouldn't be in this episode, I'll figure something out. I was really on the fence about that. This borders on me saying too much too soon, because Quimp's wondering what's happening to Phosphine and that mystery. Am I giving away too much too quickly? And I could have milked that a little bit, but I think this is more mysterious. It's like, okay, we think Phosphine's in trouble based on the information we have, and we see the baby dragons, and those poor baby dragons are in the company of this jerk. So won't you think of the children? Okay. What's with this spam? What's with this spam, Mr. YouTubes? Why are you doing this to me? Some brilliant robotic gimmick that works by having these weird strings of text appear in live video chats. Does it all add up to something? I guess what I'm really asking is, should I be spamming cryptic gibberish into other people's live streams as a way to promote my webcomic? Will that help with my algorithms? Again, I understand why Critical Role and all those ones go exclusively on Twitch so they can moderate the chat, and then I see that a lot of live streamers, they just do Twitch and then they'll just take the whole thing and then post it to YouTube. Weird cryptic spam makes me appreciate that. And if we were all using Twitch's built-in chat, then we wouldn't need a on-screen chat. I wouldn't be recording this gibberish for posterity. My gibberish, of course, but that specific gibberish. That specific YouTube spammy gibberish. I'm going to turn the word balloons back on, and I'm certain all this stuff, all this detail I'm wasting my time on is going to get covered with balloons. Well, maybe not all. Not all. Just a healthy most. Okay. Where are we? 6:08. All right, you lovely people. I think I'm going to end it there. I'm going to take a break a little bit early, stretch my back a bit. But tomorrow's regular stream will absolutely happen. That's true, LJ. I think that's a nice touch. And they are going to be talking about Quimp. So even if he's not on the screen, he will be mentioned. So, and I will, this evening I will, regular obligations, I will sort out his costume and the poor knight's costume. I think he turned out okay. I'm happy with how he's, not the colors, but I think his general gesture, the idea that the baby dragon's doing something cute. That face took a while to draw. That growling Jarn. You a YouTube creator message to your followers when you're going live on Twitch. Oh, that's true. That's true. I forget about those features. I need a day off. I need to think about this stuff. What time is tomorrow's stream? 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. East Coast time. That's the plan. If it ends early, I do have to get up very early on Saturday to drive to the convention. I'm going to try to get all the packing and stuff done. It's unlikely I'll get it all done, so I might have to do it immediately after the stream ends. So the usual disorder behind me will probably be will be amped up a bit. But thank you all so much. You're all fantastic. Thanks for following along with this silliness. And yeah, I think this one's going to turn out okay. I appreciate all your help, and you're lovely, and have a great night. And if you're going to watch Eternals, remember, just don't say to yourself every few minutes, previously on Eternals. No, do that. I think you'll enjoy it more. Good night, everyone.